Hello everyone, welcome back. KitbashCarnage here. This is a series on how to make some custom bases for your miniatures or your army. So basically, as you can see, these are just the bases we all know. Bog standard black plastic bases. So I'm going to show you how to customize these in a very few easy steps. So stick along and we'll show you how to do that. So these are just 50mm bases. These are your bog standard 32mm. So what I usually would do with these, there's nothing special to do here, guys. These is just a quick and easy way how to, make your army a bit more unique and brighten up maybe your miniature. Because a simple base like this, although it can hold your miniature, it doesn't really make it pop as much as it can. So let's show you how to do that right now. So first of all, what you would need is, I really recommend this. Citadel Skulls. This is, I am not affiliated or nothing or sponsored by these, but this box here is a go-to. I got this ages ago and it's really done me a long time, so I would recommend. You need that. You would need, or even any skulls, to be honest. Any skulls you find, any skulls you have left over, anything at all. You see later in the video what I use, random stuff. Some terrain grass. This is just what's left over. I usually do it in something, and after I do it, I scoop it all up, put it in this, and just reuse. You would need, obviously, scalpel, something to cut with, some stuff to pliers, something to mix the PVA glue, and this is just if you need some turfs and whatnot, So technically we have 1, 2, 3, and the most important, cork. So cork, you can find sheets like this on a lot of hobby websites, a lot of hobby shops even. This is just cork, a sheet of cork. This stuff is the best and cheapest way, in my opinion, to make a decent base for your miniatures. Very easy. Anybody could do this in a few steps. So cork is a go-to. You may need stuff like this. It's just some pins, paper clips and whatnot to hold up stuff, and a mini vice drill if need be with a few attachments. But we'll come to that if we need it. So first of all, let's just start. Get your 50mm base, get your PVA, and obviously make sure that it can come out. PVA, and just douse the base with PVA. There we go. Get a piece of cork, roughly see how big you need it. Roughly about that big. Please be careful with your fingers, everybody, if you're doing this. So just roughly cut yourself a segment like this. That's the rough shape of the base. And then we'll stick this straight onto this base, like so. Just like that. Don't worry about overhangs, anything like that. We'll get to that in a second. So just squish that down as much as possible. While you're doing this, what I like to do also, while that's setting for a bit, is get a 32mm base, and for rough shape, stick that on it. You'll see what we'll do with this now. And cut around that. Now, and you might think we're going to use this for this, but we're not. We're not going to use that for that. We will use that for this. So get some more PVA glue, stick it on your piece of cork. Make sure it's an ample amount, but not too much. Cork doesn't need too much to stick. And roughly figure out, we'll stick that there. Now, so while that's given a bit time to set, move on to your 32mm base. We just use these. These are just cut-offs from that. Use these. Why waste them? Get your PVA glue. Stick it to your 32mm base. Ample amount. Get your cork and stick your cork onto the base. Doesn't have to be in any specific way. Just make sure you can get it stuck down there nice. There you go. That is, well, let's stick it like that. It tends to want to fall straight in like that, so we'll stick it like that. Help the PVA glue a little bit out. Stick a bit more on, eh? No need to be stingy on the PVA. Yes, it will take a bit more longer to dry out and whatnot, but we have all the time in the world. If you do this at night time, sure, by the time you're awake it will be dry. Now, so we'll move the cork away and we'll go back to the big one we were doing here. And with this big one, if we get our little snips and if you cut around the base, make sure instead of doing it this way, if you do it this way, you'll see a lot of the bases are kind of curved. See the way it's not flat, it kind of has a taper out there. So if you cut this way, you're actually cutting at a decent angle, so it's not going to overhang. Whereas if you were to cut it this way, you're going to have a little bit of a lip sticking out, if that makes sense. See that lip? So instead you'll be cutting like this and you have that lip, that gap. Whereas if you cut like this, you have no gap and you're getting flush. Just a little thing, guys. Most of you are probably saying we know, but a lot of people don't know. I didn't. So this is all you do. Tear up the side of the cork. Just keep going around. Just keep bringing that round as to trim off a lot of the major overhang. And then I like to go up here and cut off a bit here. So it's not geometrical shapes, is that what they say? Geometrical shapes or symmetrical shapes, you know what I mean? It looks more odd and uneven in these positions. So there we go. Even these guys, even all this offcuts, that will all go in a box and eventually be used as some type of stone or something. So there we go. That right there. You can use your nail, pick around, just make sure everything's not even. Just, you see, best thing with cork is you can just grab a chunk off, and I want a bit more of an indentation in here, so we'll get our snips, create more of an indentation as if it's a big chunk coming off. And I also want this chunk to lead further down into here, so we'll do that. And then I would like a little bit taken out from the top here, just like that, and a bit more PVA. That's another thing with using cork. All type of adhesives have a tendency to soak into the cork, so you're better off using a little bit more than you think. So we'll squish that in. Flatten down any PVA excess, and that is the basics of the base number one. Your second one, see all this stuff, let's just put that in there. Bit more PVA, don't be shy. Stick that back there. Use gloves or anything, guys. I'm not too fussed about using gloves, to be honest. I wash my hands after, so. And then just, it looks rough now, but eventually when it all dries out, it looks much better. And then same with this, guys. Pick off edges. We don't want symmetrical shapes. You want it to be a bit more curved and whatnot, fit the base. Now, so that fits the base better, and we'll leave that to dry. So there's our 2 bases quickly done. That taken 10 minutes just to quickly do that together, and I'll be back to you in a minute when we have these sorted. So this is the next step to making the bases. So as you can see, I've got a few different stuff out here. We've got the turfs out, a few skulls that I've taken out from the bits box, and also some other bits that I have found. So just a skeleton there with a crown. I think that's, I don't know what that is, to be honest, and that looks like his arm. So yeah, we're gonna just use all these. Sometimes I would use little pins, so clothespin things like these for sewing or whatnot. They're kind of good for sticking out of the ground, for like a spike and whatnot, or little pieces of metal, wire metal, if I can get this off. Hold on. So little pieces of wire metal can also be used for just wires coming out of the ground, or barbed wire you can make from this. I'll show you in a later video. Stay tuned in the future to see videos on how to make barbed wire from these. So yeah, let's just go through this quickly. So first of all, as you've seen, I laid out how I want this person or skeleton dude to be. So he's in a rough position like that. He's died there. His arm's fallen off and his wee legs are going to be there. So what we'll do with him is get our trusty PVA glue out, and we'll just douse the general area where we want him to be. Remember guys, you don't have to go too sparingly on PVA or PVC, whatever it's called. You don't have to go sparingly on this because it is cheap and it does dry clear. So we'll put our little fella here, stick him in the corner there, and we'll get his arm and we'll stick that in a certain position that we're happy with. I'm thinking about there, and then his legs can go, this is what these tools are for, and the legs can go in a position like this. So as if he's after being cut in half, kind of, and his arm has fell off and whatnot. So here we go. I'm happy with that. And then any excess PVA that you don't want, just use a toothpick or something to wipe it off, or a little cloth that I have here, toothpick and everything sticking to it, or matchstick, whatever. Just use a wee cloth to dab around the edges and remove any excess you don't want. Now, and we'll leave him to dry. And then the other one, we have some skulls here, simple skulls, that we're just going to stick in the side here. A technique that I like to call a pile of skulls. So this is what we do with this, and then you get your skulls and just simply pile them up. This is where a pliers will come in handy. So if you get a little pliers and just, I don't know if this will focus enough, but you just stick them in there and maneuver them in a certain position that you're happy with. Some of the skulls are going to be completely covered. You won't be able to see them, but it's just getting the general idea of a pile of skulls. So if this skull will ever behave, and there we go. And don't be afraid to stick a bit more PVA glue there. We shall stick a wee dollop here. As I said, this dries clear, and any extra stringy bits can be used for gore or whatnot. So don't be too afraid to pile it on. This is the KitbashCarnage channel, so there is a bit of carnage to what we're doing here. And It's all about creativity. Now, so we should get one more skull in there, and then that'll be here. Now, so I'm happy with that, and we'll leave that to the side to dry also. And I'll be right back. So it's been a few minutes and I came back, and the PVA glue has not dried up as much as I wanted it to, but it doesn't matter because the next step needs more PVA glue. So as you can see, I've added a few more skulls here and a little pin there at the top, like we mentioned, from like a clothing pin type of thing, just to give it a bit more of a chaosy feel. I've also wound up the piece of metal wire just along something like this, a cocktail stick or whatnot, and that has created this little wiry kind of texture here, or technique, or looking thing. So what we'll do with this is we'll stick it right in this gap here, and this could be as if there's some wires coming out of the ground, or gives this a bit more variety or character, shall I say. So we'll leave that there, and then we'll move on to spraying this whole thing with primer in order to give it a base coat, and then we will get some greenery on here and do a bit of dry brushing. There's my cat, I'll dry it on time. Do a bit of dry brushing and come back to you in a minute. So it's been a few minutes, and I've after going and doing a little base coat of a black spray on these, just to give it a quick base coat. Next I'm going to give it a nice dry brush, and we'll see what it comes out with. And so I'll show you quickly what colours I'm going to use. I'm not the best at dry brushing or painting in general, but we'll have a look. Wraith Bone, we have some Blood Angels red, we have some Bolthaster gold, whatever. I'm dyslexic to hell, guys. Apologies for the language and for me not being able to read stuff or spell or do pretty much anything got to do with that. Korax white and Thunderhawk blue. So we use these. Sorry if I didn't show any colors, but we will use these ones and see where we go from there. So I'm just going to do a quick dry brush. Just get an old brush that you don't really use that much, and we'll start with, I like to start with the blue. So this is going to be like rocks, kind of stony, kind of slate rocks. So we'll start with the blue. Just get a bit of blue on there. Plenty. Call this channel KitbashCarnage for a reason, guys. That's plenty enough to do us. Dab it out and try not to go over the skulls, because obviously we want them to be more white, but just give it a wee tap around. Don't worry if you get on the base or anything, because the bases we will paint them black again, or any other color, so don't worry if any gets on the bases. So quickly get a bit of blue down, or thunder, whatever it was called. No need to be worried about where this goes, guys. It's a Carnage job, it's a slap job. It's just get them done. 2 bases, 1 hour, we're gonna do it. Something that can finish our army off. Bit more paint, dry brush that, get as much off as you can. We don't really want to be well, we do want to be painting the minis, but we're dry brushing these, so we're only putting the least amount on us we need. So just dab that. And the next one. And then we'll get the Korax white. And dab it out. Just remember, try to take as much off as possible. but not as much as to not be able to get the desired effect on the whatever you're painting really. So we'll just do a little brush over top there, and then this is where I would do your skulls, so because they're going to be white anyway, so give the skulls a little dry brush. Okay, one skull just fell off, but looks like we're having one skull less. So as you can see, their skulls start to pop out now as soon as you give them a bit of white. Gives them the contrast. And don't worry about painting the actual outside the rim of the base, we'll go over that. Okay, and then we should get the next one and try to get the white of here. And his leg. Just keep on painting around. Rough paint. Now, so that's that for that color. So next thing we should do is get a thinner brush, and we will paint the Blood Angels red in the inside of cracks and stuff to give it a dry blood kind of look. So get that, and if we want to paint this on a bit of the barbed wire here, and then if we paint it a bit in here, you don't have to go light on this part, just pile on the paint here, guys. Trying to avoid any white that you have down already, and just keep on piling the paint on. This will give it a blood look, but like a dry blood look, as long as you don't get that much on the actual white itself, because then it will shine through a bit more. Shine through? Come through. Shine bright like a diamond. So apologies guys. So just a few tins of bits of red just going around, and a little bit here where his arm would join. Yes, it's gonna be, it's bone from years ago, but it will blend in once we have the foliage and stuff down. It will blend in much better, so we'll leave that just like that. And the next one we'll do just a little bit around here. Now guys, these are just a rushed bases to be done 2 in 1 hour. So far we're not doing so bad. I have some Abaddon black. Is it Abaddon black? So I use this quickly just to paint any bits that haven't been covered. You should really change, dry out your brush, water and all that with your brush. But yeah, we're just trying to get this done nice and quick, guys. It's not really too important to us at this point. So any bits that you could see the cork through, I'd recommend just sticking a little bit of black on it, just to cover it up that little bit more. Now, and then a bit of black in the center there to reassure and make stand out the gap in the middle. And we'll do the same with the bigger base. So you can see I have some cork shining through here. We'll quickly, a little bit of black paint here, has to cover it, and then with the foliage we should cover it a little bit more. Alright, so foliage time. So with the foliage, I tend to get myself a little box. Hold on, I'll get a box just now, guys. Pause you 1 second. Okay guys, I'm back. So this is like just a little Tupperware thing I would get, and this is where I'll place these inside as to not destroy everywhere and get stuff all over the place. So before we stick them in, let's get our trusty old friend PVA glue. And it's the PVA glue that is going to be the stuff that sticks down the foliage and whatnot. I have to stop using that word, whatnot. So let's just start sticking any places that you won't be able to get the glue, PVA. Just stick a big dollop down. We'll work it through with a piece of stick or twig or something, matchstick or something. So I like to do just as lines kind of along the rocks, as if the foliage is growing up the rock itself. And then anywhere you would think foliage would grow over time, that's where I'd stick it. Yes, we have just painted on this, guys. Realistically, you would want to wait, but I'm doing 2 bases in 1 hour and I have no time. So now let's just get a wee stick here and we'll move this PVA into the bits where we would want the foliage to stick. So we want it to stick in between the legs kind of, and just under this little tarp here. And then what we do with him is stick that base down in here, and every time I use my foliage I gather it back up again, and you see a bit of sand in here, a bit of foliage, grass, whatnot. So just give that a wee shake and just dump that on top. I don't really care how much, because that's what the box is for. I stick the lid over it like that, give it a shake, and that should be here done. A wee tap, get rid of any big bits that are stuck on that you don't want, and that's your base, guys. So apart from a few touch-ups, we would do the tarp here a different color, the flagpole will touch up, and the crown. That's pretty much it done. So we'll leave that to dry. We'll get the smaller bit done now. Here's the smaller one, and we'll stick our PVA on. In whichever way we want it to go. And then we shall stick this and cover it with our foliage and grass. Now, lid over, give it a shake, and give it a wee tap with the back of your brush or whatever you need to. And there we go, guys. Apart from 2 wee bits of cork in there, which we will just get out. That's that basically done as well. And as I said, don't worry about the over spillage. We'll fix that at the very last minute. And then in all this, straight back in the small container. And then that way, you've made barely any mess, and you're ready to continue to do what the next thing you have to do. So I'll be right back with that step. So the next thing we're going to do here is we are going to paint the cloth here on the pole he's holding and on his trousers here. So for that we'll get the Thunderhawk blue, and we shall grab ourselves another brush here and get some paint, thin it down, and we shall quickly do a little dry brush on his cloth here. A bit more. And just quickly paint over his tarp there. A tiny bit more. Now, and then for the banner here, we shall use a different color, a little bit of red mixed with the blue that we just had there. And guys, whatever you do, don't do what I'm doing. Using the lid, please. Do a quick coat on that, and then on the piece going around the pole. And then for the pole itself, well, while we have this color on the brush, let's do this little, what would you call it, a sash, is that what they call it? Things that go around your body like that. And then let's paint this thing around his arm or his wrist quickly. And now we shall just paint these things here. It looks like more cloth on them, just to make it stand out from the bone, the actual skeleton. And then for his crown there, we shall get some of our bat, this with this thing. We'll get some of that, and then what we'll do is we'll paint the crown. Only want a small bit of that, so dab some off, and we shall get his crown. Do apologize, it's just not going in focus. Now, and with that done, we shall use the same color for the pole. We don't really want it to be as neat as the crown. It is to just quickly contrast, or not contrast, differentiate basically the colors that are already there. So that looks okay. And the small one here, we shall coat the pin that we stuck in earlier with some of this. Now, and then we shall just color that pin in so it can stand out different towards everything, the skulls, the white skulls that are there. Now, you can't see it that well on camera, but it stands out that little bit more. So now that that's finished, we'll wait until they dry, and then we shall paint the rim of the bases in order to tidy up any extra bits that we messed up. And I'll be back in 1 minute. So we're back, and we let that dry a little bit. So now we'll paint the rim of the bases just to cover up any mistakes that we made previous. So just get out some black and paint. So anything like this, just scrape off with your nail or with a scalpel or anything like that. Hobby crafting knife, shall I say, and go over the rim of the base. You can do this in any colour you want. I like to do it in black just to keep it original as to what the original base would be. So you may need a few coats of this. Usually 1 coat does the job, depending on how much you got on the rim. So we'll just go around this once, making sure everything is covered so it looks just that little bit neater. And we'll move on to the next one. Once again, scrape off anything with your nail or a hobbycraft knife. Quickly go around, get yourself some black and paint around the rim. As to just clean up any messes that you've made. You're bound to cause a little bit of carnage. Excuse me, frog in my throat. But as long as you have fun doing it, that's all that matters. You're bound to come into situations where you are a little bit stressed or overwhelmed, but at the end of the day, this is a hobby. This is something I enjoy to do, and I do at my spare time whenever I have any. So I try to enjoy it as much as possible and not get too stressed over anything. So that's better than what it looked like. We'll probably go over it with another coat, but until then, we'll leave that like that. Now, close our paint, make sure we don't spill that all over the place. And for now, that is the 2 bases. So we have one here and the second one here.